We're going to start off this installation tutorial with launching the Raspberry Pi Imager software. This is software that's going to help us get the Raspberry Pi OS installed onto your SD card. So make sure you have your SD card plugged into your computer and launch this Raspberry Pi Imager software. Now this is version 2.0.0, which is the latest and greatest as of the time I'm recording this video. You may have something older or newer, but hopefully it will look very similar to what I'm showing here. So the first thing we will do is select your Raspberry Pi model. Today for this demo, I'm going to be using the Raspberry Pi 3 Model A+, and so I'm going to go ahead and select that here. Next, for choosing the specific OS type, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to the Raspberry Pi OS Other. Click into that. And then basically here we want to make sure we're choosing the right OS for PiFire, and that's really any of the light versions of the OS. But depending on what you plan to do with PiFire, whether you are planning to use a DSI connected display or if you have maybe any other kind of configuration, you may want to choose a specific OS type. Um, Go ahead and look into the Discord or into our documentation to get some more information there. For today's demo, I'm going to just use the 64-bit Trixie Lite version, so I'm going to go ahead and select that. All right, I've already got an SD card installed. I'll select that. Moving on. Right here, you can choose your host name. I just chose TFire, which is testfire, but a common one might be PiFire. You may be able to use this on your network to help find your device. It really is something that is totally customizable and optional. All right, next, set your localization. So just really simply put where approximately where you are living and move on to the next step. Next, we want to choose a username and password. This is super important, so write this down, remember it. We are going to be using this later to log into the Pi and to set things up. Set up your Wi-Fi network. So make sure you have your Wi-Fi SSD entered correctly, your password entered correctly, etc. And then the last most important thing is to enable SSH. We're going to be using this to log into the system and install PiFire in a little bit. And make sure that you disable the Raspberry Pi Connect. That's not necessary for this project. All right, let's get down to business. We'll go ahead and write this to the SD card, and we'll come back to you after that is completed. All right, it's all finished writing, and we are ready to move on to the next step. Okay, it's time to log into your Raspberry Pi. So first, obviously, you're going to want to put the SD card into your Raspberry Pi, power it up, give it a few minutes to settle down. It is going to be going through quite a bit of initialization the first time you boot it up. It may reboot a couple times to do things like expand the file system, etc. So give it a few minutes and then come back to it. And then we're going to SSH into the Raspberry Pi. So for this, you're going to want to use your a terminal application that you have on your OS. I'm using Linux, but you may want to use something like Windows or Mac. I think they all may have terminal applications that you can use just to SSH into the Raspberry Pi. Command is very simple for this. It's going to be SSH. Then we're going to use your username that you set up during the installation process previously. So hopefully you had that written down. Then you're going to want to put your IP address of the Raspberry Pi, and you can find this usually in the router. If you go look at your router, sometimes you can see what IP address was assigned to your Raspberry Pi. You may also be able to use the host name that you set before during the installation process. Your mileage may vary. I don't like to use that because sometimes it doesn't work, but you can give it a shot. I happen to know my IP address for this, so I'm going to go ahead and type it in. And eventually you're going to want to set up a static IP for PiFire so that you can always access it at the same IP address or at the same location. Just be easier to access, just in case your router decides to change the IP at some point. All right, yes, we are going to add fingerprint for this. Okay, and then hopefully you remember your password as well, entering that in. Okay, now we're at the command prompt. And I'm going to go ahead and give you a command that's going to help you install PiFire. So we're going to open up our browser. We're going to go over to the documentation website. Now, oops, that's not the right one. Documentation is located here at this address, nabhead.github.io/PiFirePages. We're going to go ahead and click on the installation tab on the left-hand side, and then we want to copy this command, this curl command. So we'll go ahead and click that little button on the right-hand side, or you can select it and do Control-C. Then go back to our terminal and paste. Say yes. Okay, we're going to paste our command in and press enter. And it's going to start the installation process. Okay, and we'll press enter again here. I always advise to enable supervisor. This helps in debug if anything goes wrong in the future. I'm going to enter a username of user and password of pass. And then after that, this is the last step, and then it's going to go through the whole entire installation process. So I'll let this run. You may fast forward through this, and I'll come back to you at the very end when we're all complete. And installation is completed. We can go ahead and press enter. System will reboot, and we can log into the web interface after this. All right, lastly, we are going to log into the web interface of PiFire and go through the final installation steps to get everything set up. So let's go back to the browser, and let's go to open a new tab, and we'll go to the IP address of our PiFire instance that we just installed. Excellent. Okay, and it comes up with our update message or welcome message. I'm going to go ahead and close that. Now you're going to be greeted with the configuration wizard right out of the gate, and this is to help you get all of the hardware set up. So if you're ready, you can start walking through this process. The first screen is to set up the sort of platform configuration for your PiFire instance. I'm using the 4.x.x PCB on my test build. But if you're using something different, you can go to the drop down here and select that, or even select a custom build if that's what you're using. But for this, I'm going to go through just setting up the instance that I have. First off, we're going to skip over the Raspberry Pi as the only system type that we have. I have active high relays here on mine. I also have an AC fan set up on mine, so I'm going to go ahead and set that. And then it is real hardware, it's not a test system. Okay, on the next tab, we have options to select the type of probe input that we're going to be using. I'm in the United States, so I'm using Fahrenheit, but you can change this to Celsius if that works better for you. As far as probe input devices, I'm just using a ADS 1115, so I don't really need to do a whole lot of config. However, mine is actually on a different I2C address, so I'm going to go ahead and change that to 49. I also have a different resistor divider value for the first channel, so I'm going to go ahead and change that to 1000 instead of the 10,000 for all the other channels. And then I'll go ahead and save that. I don't have any other temperature devices or any other probe input devices, but if I did, I could click here and select those. For example, maybe I have a meter Bluetooth or something like that. I could select that and add it here. As far as actual probes, I do have 4 probes installed. So I have the grill probe, which is the primary, connected to channel 0, and then I have food probes for the others. They're all ports, and I just have them configured with the ThermalWorks Pro Series profile. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next. I do have a display and a rotary encoder, so I'm going to go ahead and install that option. So this is the 9341 TFT with rotary encoder. No need to change any of these settings because everything should be okay as standard. So I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next step. And then last but not least, you can choose a hopper sensor. I don't have anything connected to this particular test device right now, so I'm going to leave this as none and move on to the next step. And that's it. So I'm just going to review that I've got PCB 4.x, I've got the ADS 1115, the ILA 9341 encoder, and no hopper. So then I'm going to go ahead and click confirm and install and let this go through the install process. And once it's finished, it's going to reboot and hopefully everything goes well. I will come back after it's all completed. And just like that, it's come back up and looks like everything was installed correctly. So that's really about it for getting everything installed. Hopefully this was helpful and hopefully everything went smoothly on your end. Thanks a lot for watching.